So tonight, we're going to actually take it a step further and try to begin to identify some principles around affordable housing. And I know that word affordable is something that we all don't even necessarily have the same definition for, and that's fine. So what we've done is the EEDC board has invited Place, an excellent nonprofit development corporation located in Minneapolis, to come in and take a fresh look at Port Street and to help guide us through a process for evaluating the potential for affordable housing along Port Street. And
so Place, let me give you a little background on Place. My thought was to give you a little background on Place to show you some projects that we have worked on and a description of the process, because that is a lot about what we've been talking about. And keep in mind that nothing that we're showing you is what we are recommending for your Port Street plan. It is merely just experience that we have to kind of give you a sense of the way we approach our projects and hopefully get you thinking about some things that you then might want to apply for the Port Street plan. So Place is a charity. We are a 501c3 publicly supported charity, and we also are community builders. So the reason that we all do what we do, and you don't work for a charity for the money, that's for sure. The reason that we all do what we do is because we are passionate about a few things. One is involving the community in the development process. Very often development happens and you have very little involvement in it. And it can have a real lasting impact on your community. And so we've really devoted ourselves to community-driven processes of development. Often the way Place works is that we'll get a call from a community leader of some kind saying, we're interested in having you help with our vision. In this particular case, it was wonderful because it was January in Minnesota and they wanted us to come to Ventura on the beach, and so that was a nice fringe benefit. But they said, we've got this creative class, so this is what they called them, their creative class, and they were designers, artists, artisans, musicians, inventors, makers that had arrived in Ventura because it was too expensive in Los Angeles to the south, and it was too expensive in Santa Barbara to the north, so they landed in the middle in Ventura. And now, guess what? It's too expensive in Ventura. So they were losing all of their creative class, and they had discovered that it was their #1 economic benefit was from their creative class. And so they called us up and they said, can you create a permanently affordable enclave for our creative class? We identified this site as the target site, and it was contaminated with petroleum. And so what we did is went out and got a grant from the EPA to clean the site up. It's beautiful locations right in their downtown. So anybody who was going to be living and working and learning and playing on this site would be have all of downtown, the parks, the schools, the grocery store, the clinic, everything that you could want right there. But it needed to be cleaned up. And while we were cleaning it up, we held 142 public meetings. So we are deadly serious about this idea of involving the community in the development process. But what happened along the way was the community gave us a bunch of different goals. So they said, yes, we agree with the city, who had originally called us, that we want to keep our creative class. But it shouldn't all be affordable because some of our creative class are doing really well. So we'd like market rate opportunities for people in the creative class. And we thought that was great because we think that mixed income communities, or communities that have opportunities for people of all incomes, are healthier than communities that are just for one layer of income, for example. So we said that was great. And then they said, and another thing, it would be great if those creatives had a venue where they could show us all the cool creative stuff that they're doing. We want to look at that new iPhone app. We want to see that sculpture show, that painting show, that photography show. We want to see that band perform. We want to see that one-act play. And that venue should be free. And not just free to them, but free to anybody in the whole community who wants to use it. So now it's getting hard. And they said, and we'd like to have a place for street level businesses so that we could have a place to get a cup of coffee and take a yoga class. And also, we have a homelessness problem here, and we'd like you to fix that for us. And we would also like them to be the greenest buildings ever built. And so those are all the challenges that they gave us for this. And so what we started out with was something that we have found over the years to be a really transformational tool. It's called Live and Workspace. So what we do is we design space so that people can both live and work in the space at the same time. And the reason for this is that there's lots of studies out there that indicate that communities are positively impacted when they have people living there. And they're also positively impacted when they have small businesses there. And there's in fact a problem if you're trying to create this effect, because small businesses don't want to locate in places where there are no people living, and people don't want to live in places where there are no small businesses located. So the Live and Workspace gives us an opportunity to do them both at the same time, but also both under the same roof. So this is what that contaminated vacant lot now looks like. It is, I think most people in Ventura think that this is the most beautiful building in Ventura, which is incredible because there are 15 apartments for 42 people who have come out of chronic homelessness. This is 10 plus years of homelessness. We decided to go after the people with the greatest need, the most difficult to serve in the community, people who are chronically homeless, and you don't even know where they are, and nobody thinks of it as a homelessness project. They also don't think of it as an affordable housing project, but there's also affordable housing here at different levels, 30% of AMI, 50% of AMI, 60% of AMI, all served here as well. So again, it's that kind of from the bottom of the income spectrum opportunities to the middle, and then we also have market rate. And those folks are in here as well, and people don't think of it as that market rate condominium project, and they don't think of it as that affordable housing project, they just think of it as that cool place. And that's when we know we're really doing a good job with this mixed use development, is that it has a character unto itself. It's not about what its individual components are, it's just about good placemaking, if that makes sense to you. And so, you know, one of the ways that we do this is by looking at revenue streams. So as a nonprofit, one of the benefits that we have is that we don't have to have shareholders that need to get a return from the projects that we work on. So it allows us to mix revenue streams. So you know, revenue positive streams are those uses that generate extra money. Those things would be like market rate housing, retail space, things like that. Those would be revenue positive. Revenue neutral are things like our affordable housing at 30, 50, and 60% AMI. Those can pay the bills. And so they're revenue neutral. They don't generate any extra revenue, but they pay the bills. They're revenue neutral. And then we have revenue negative things like a free community theater for everybody. That's revenue negative. That we have to feed that. And so we can balance those revenue streams to end up with a community that works, is able to pay its bills, be in the black, not need any additional funding, and also be able to contribute to reserve accounts so that we can actually improve the property over time. So what happened was the city and the community that had been involved was so happy with this project, and they really had a sense of ownership because they came to those 142 meetings, that they hired a troupe of professional dancers to hang on wires. I don't know if you can see, they're on harnesses and connected to the rooftops of the buildings. And so they hung and they danced all over the outsides of the buildings. And thousands of citizens came to this. And the mayor was standing next to me, and he said, I get this now. This kind of thing does not happen when we open a Walmart. Just one more thing about this. We also, this was opened in 2009. So 2009, much like right now, the public conversation was a lot about health, access to health insurance. and what we were going to do about that as a country. So we decided we were going to try to come up with our own solution. So we put together a program with Aetna and another nonprofit, and we provided access to super affordable health insurance to every man, woman, and child who lives in this project, simply by living there. So it's no longer coupled with their employer, it's coupled with their community. And it's been working great. One family told me they had been spending $880 a month on health care, and when they moved in here, it dropped down to $197 a month, so big. This is an exciting project. It's underway right now. We just got our approvals, all approvals to proceed with the project on Monday, which is very exciting. And what we like about this is on the edge of Minneapolis. And you can see in the middle of those two lines, the blue line is a train light rail system. And there's a station that's going to be right at our project. So people can walk out their front door and get on the light rail, which is great. The green line is like a bicycle superhighway. You can get on this walking or biking and go all the way right into downtown without ever getting on a city street. So it's super safe, and it gets commuters. Even in the winter time, these Minnesotans who are real avid cyclists, they buy these bikes with these giant fat tires on them. I don't know if you've ever seen them or not, and so they can go in the snow and ice. And it's not for me, but it works for them, and they're serious year-round commuters. And so what we really are trying to do here is what's called transit-oriented development. Really see if we can find opportunities for people to live successfully without needing a car. This is very hard to do unless you're in Manhattan, or San Francisco or something like that. Certainly does not happen in Minneapolis. So the reason that can work is a few. There's a few reasons. One is live and workspace. So again, if people are living and working right on site, they don't have the same need to commute as people who are living here and have jobs over there. Two, if they need to get somewhere, they can walk out their front door and get on the train, or they can walk out their front door and get on their bicycle and get downtown to where all the jobs are. If they don't have a bicycle, there's a shared bicycle. And if they still need a car, we have shared cars. They can just rent them by the hour, and they don't even need insurance. They don't even need to worry about fuel or cleaning them. They're all set up there just to rent by the hour. This is what's being built. And you can see the light rail platform in the middle, and the bike trail. And then on the north side, we have our kind of more quiet, residential, contemplative part of the community. And what we've done is we've left a whole acre almost of the site to become reforested, so it can become an urban art forest. So even though this is a pretty urban site, you can also take a walk in the woods, because we really believe that people need access to green space to really thrive. And so in this particular case, they will have that. And yeah, there's also going to be cool art installations salted throughout the forest as well. That will be really exciting, I think, and also changing over time. Come up with new works. And then even a parking lot is not just a parking lot, it's an opportunity to generate solar energy. And so that has a solar canopy above it, so you can park beneath it. Then we have our e-generation project, which I'm going to come back to in a minute. And on the south side, this is the busier, a little bit more commercial aspect of the project, and it has a hotel. And one of the reasons we really love this is that Place is going to own this hotel. It will be a Fairfield Inn by Marriott. But our operators and managers are specifically there to hire people from our affordable living to come and work at the hotel and learn hospitality. And so they've got good jobs that they don't have to commute to. And they can walk across the yard and do this. So we're bundling together as a solution jobs and housing opportunities for people of all incomes. And so that's something we're very excited about, is not done typically, and think that will make a huge difference for people. Live and work. There's a whole building right across from the hotel. So they've got this market. So if they're making things, exciting things, they've got new guests every day at the hotel who can walk over and say, oh, I love that pottery, I'm going to buy that, or I want to buy that painting or that photograph. or whatever. And so they've got this access to this captive audience in the form of the hotel. And the hotel has a really exciting place because they just have to walk across the plaza and visit the potter and the photographer and the musician and the painter and the sculptor, and they're all these one-of-a-kind things that they could never see anywhere else. So it's really exciting for them as well. The whole thing is clad in solar, obviously, and also has micro wind turbines too to generate energy. But what I really want to focus on is this upper left-hand corner. It's called E-generation. It's marked E-gen on there. E-generation is places invention. We were looking for a neighborhood scale way to generate energy and to cultivate food for people. Those are two things we just couldn't find out there, so we decided we had to invent it. So E-generation works like this. We take food scraps from the community that would otherwise be thrown away, right? And that's about over half of everything that we throw away is food scraps by weight. So it's a lot. We're going to be reducing what we throw away in this community by 55%. So we take those food scraps, we put them into E-generation. E-generation uses microbes, natural microbes, to break down the food scraps and make energy from them. We use that energy to power the community. Now what's left over is heat and fertilizer. So you notice that E-generation is wrapped in greenhouses. So those greenhouses will be heated all winter long with the waste heat from the process, and they'll be fertilized with the waste fertilizer from the process, and we grow food for the community. And then of course when they eat that food, there's more food scraps that go right back into the system again. So we're really excited about delivering that, and think that, again, having jobs created, we're generating, according to the federal job criteria and the state job criteria, almost 120 full-time permanent jobs with this project, including urban agriculture, hospitality, small business type jobs, property management, renewable energy, so lots of different sectors here to generate jobs from. The kind of impact that we try to have is what we call transformational, not incremental. So our work is often focused on this. So if, for example, we go back to that 360-degree diagram that we were talking about earlier, and we just take something like affordable housing, and that is a tool to help people, and it lowers their rent, and that's a good thing, and they need that. But when you look at the long-term data on affordable housing, it's not doing as much as we would like. It's just not moving the needle as much as we would like. It's an incremental benefit, but it's not a transformational benefit. So if we take a look at this project, so these are actual conservative estimates as to what a household would save. So their monthly rent savings, on average, $230. There are some people who are saving, $1,000, it's really serious savings, and some people are in market rate and they're not really saving anything. So when you add that all up, $230 per month. But now, energy savings, because we're using E-generation to generate our own energy, that's at least $50 conservatively per month in energy cost savings for people. Their workspace, in their live-in workspace, again, very conservative, doubtful that they can rent a space for $350, but we're again taking conservative numbers. So that's a $350 savings. They've got their workspace right there with their living space. Their monthly food savings by having food grown right on site. We're going to be producing 8 ounces of organic green produce for every person every day, year-round. $80 savings is, again, conservative estimate. Transportation savings, $500. Remember I told you the average cost of ownership, $800, but we knocked it down to $500 to be conservative. That's a total savings of $1,210. So now this is the kind of thing that we think can make a transformational impact for people. And it just involves being able to plan more comprehensively. And finally, one more little story of inspiration. This is the historic Schubert Theater. There were a bunch of Schubert theaters around the country. It was a chain, and this one was built in 1912, and it was a real beauty because it had 2 balconies. And this was kind of a new technology in theaters because everybody could kind of be closer to the stage if you had 2 balconies. Yeah, they were up, but they were still closer. Rather than sitting way back and looking at little ants on the stage. And so the Schubert Theater was great. The problem is that it had fallen into disrepair and disuse, and it was sitting in the middle of a downtown block that was considered to be the most valuable redevelopment opportunity in the downtown. And so I happened to be at a party, cocktail party, with some of the city leaders, and they were sharing this story, this kind of conundrum. They said, we're kind of in a bind here because we signed a development agreement for that block, and we really need the money, and we signed this development agreement, and it states that if we haven't torn this theater down by December 31st, that they will sue us. And they can sue us under the contract. And the historic preservation folks are saying if we tear down the oldest theater, they will sue us. And we don't know what to do. And I said, I know what to do. We need to pick it up and move it. And they said, what are you talking about? And I said, well, I'm not actually sure that it can be done, but maybe it can be done. So we did a feasibility study on it. And it turned out, yes, it could be done. It was, however, what we were unprepared for, the biggest building to ever be in the history of the world. No kidding. Guinness Book of World Records came out, and they weighed it. And in fact, there were only 2 companies in the whole world that were capable of doing this. And when we interviewed each of them, they said, we really can't do this without borrowing equipment from the other guy, because there just wasn't enough even available for something this big. And I just want to end by saying that when I see a group like this, I am really inspired, and I hope you are too, because people like this gathered around a common vision can literally move mountains. Thank you.